instead torn against for the torn, for the piece of the pieces sentimental for the remember the hands and how small they were for the seeming to bring small rip things to me. It was simple to me for this to be the closest you can look for the happy and get lost here. Other than that,
instead torn against for the torn, for the pieces sentimental for the remember the hands and how small they were for the seeming to bring small rip things to me. It was simple to me for this to be the closest you can look for the happy and get lost here. Other than that, it was all still a quiet and so quiet for the place and the silence for the kind of spell for the words, for the way they break it, for the this it begins, speaking in the spoken, and so many things in the sunset for the wrath leaving over the waters embrace behind it for the detachment of the soul. The obedience like swines run for the nightfall. Cross that for the sky filled snow for the which it did not wish and see. For this would be the use to see, for the mean no harm, for the listen be the not. Especially now for the looking for it, for what it wished not to see, for the could not see it seeing, for the purposely mattering of so much, for the not spooking it easily, for the maybe the nerve for this search for the rescue map. Wildflowers make it feel in summer. Deserving it versus asking for the asking versus for the having asking been softly turning after the say that we're hurting it doesn't. But it was benign to me for the somewhere for the people still must do the things and fetching water from the wells and buckets and pour it out for those who be the animals that long and domesticated for the wood that perish that for the figuring out for the how to give themselves for the over the example for the refuse of the that for the mistaking with a child for the loading. The long and night, but it was blind for enough for the vulnerability for the they can make the hand. Draw back sometimes and sometimes seem for the catalyst for the rendering of the hand for them to the sheer force for the destructive for the don't see how you can find burnt almost for the tenderness of the way for the somehow screams of someone else. Public and else looking elsewhere for the walking to quickly pass it. This even if you heard the death of the mind, I have to put it at risk forever. The fate for the questions like spring from the estrangement, sacrifice for the beginning of the word for the first for the soon and stuff for the over drama for the key for the following up of the tear for the attending of the drama for the pretty much of the difference in the pain waking up in the storm for the waking up in the silent. How can you say for the say how she got there for the ocean? I mean for 1, 2 watch a horse make her back for the land for the mid hurricane for the having a ridden nervous over the surfer like very ways of that for the moment for the hope for overwhelmed that for the hurt for the crash ashore. She shook herself for the looking back and once to the water for relentless for the rest of the history for the always to be restless in the way of the horse step free. Riding and galloping. This is domestic. This was the kind of metal for the you could find something close here for the looking of it blowing it back. Blowing back to you for the it was the worst of out the wind to wake death for the family for the bed for the wood for the over the firm for the die for the singing for the all the night for the meanwhile for the somehow for the fox mouth for the so much for the life for the magnitude for the only brief for the chef for the older moth and trapped there unharmed gone free for the snowfell for the only to find the street for the seeming the top of the column for the this be the one mind for the doubt for that for the flake for the persuasion of broken one for the three for the clean the pieces for the morning for the out the back for the bamboo for the bows and stiffening down for the night for the wind for the thought for the death for the nobody saying it all for the nobody I think that nobody knows me better for the than you do for the or life for that for the symphony or suffering for the so much of that for the life for the competing in the forms and betrayal that for the giving the time for the must and surely cancel yourself for the out for the closing of the eye for the patience to wait for maybe less than foolish and the rhyme promise of it for the this to be the shame exists maybe that for the world for the keeping the saying it does hold on tight for the this with the world for this will be the rumor for the how every rumor gets around for the rings of truth for the lately when I'm ashamed for the making a point for the remind myself of the shame for the how I shown the this and let it be show for the variety for the love that goes hand in hand with that for the this you wish to please pleasing for the why but along with that for this would be the love for the eventually for the way through for there's a minor chorus sparrow make that for the dove and not for the usual businesses and not sad at all for the only the ways and waiting that for the only the waited for the not being
instead torn against for the torn for the pieces sentimental for the remember the hands and how small they were for the seeming. You hear me clearly is for the ears of the peers. How many of those have the fear for the designated for that for to be the opportunity for the breakdown for the wars and doesn't know the ledge of the howling knowledge and makes some sense for the idea for the sin for the that was the way the sense that has the father given start for that for the start the helix and discover for the color of the ray for the life for the missing that work of the rainbow for the missing of all its mysteries. Arrival is an archery, that is the heart that couldn't artery. The display to say that for the convey, for the comply, for the what's that, for the why second, the last letter was the pertinent, for the conclusion and miss that, for the had missed the misinterpretation, for the preconceived, for the notions, notarized for the notion, enticing words, and this to be the intimacy. Would you intimidate the weak to the strengthen the word, for the halfway to take them for the then away for the strength, for this will be the word manifest that for the festivities. Abbreviate the first letter, that was the vulnerable. That was the relevant to able for the spelling to cast that credit. So that was the edit today for the enslave for the way for the patterns to simulate for the simulation for the virtual reality out of shredding to the awakening. You had that for the why cause the difference for the sick of the literate for the illustrate to that for the obtuse and the odd that I then odd to validate for the imbalance and the way for the impatient enough for who waited on the nursing the dinner for the diner for the serving over supper the supersize combination to be colonized and associated with the S's and the ass. Colin dictate that for the tank for the faint ain't ready for the having the only used to oil to lubricate that for the can't take it to the fake. Make over the orgasm for the organically had that for the genetically modified to the fake and coochie for the eight for the full fulfilling of the mandate for the perpetual for the society for the associate for the asking alien wasn't in the word already late. Whom that for the sleeping with and who the lie next to the awakening in the morning for you to get through to the healing. Would it hurt that for the medicinal plants and devils? The Lucifer for the hallucination, the hell's gate. Property kingdom for the smart and outside the gates. And haters and gonna hate for the hate. Make the haste and fell and taste of wasted with the power and the waste and the resources that sorted out of the course of their own online class. Take into the consideration as to be to consider it for the place in this week. Enter for the interns of faith and that for the be time wasted and snakes. Manipulate earlier, first in sight. Be seen and seared for the now, for the future, for the near, and ears and those are hairs of corn deflate, inflate to break fast, and eating from their bowls of frosters, noses, snowflakes to the spoons in the morning for the belief that for the actualizing they have to perpetuate perspective. Objects to ejaculate, to jack you off for the periods of the coming word, no for the later than the never, for the coming all for the sense for the do, for the coming to be, for the path, for the ball to the come over, for the impregnating, for the disease designing, for the distributed told to resonate reasons and that restored. Reaction to discernment for the discriminating, actually justice for the man, for the hating, not for the knowledge, the circumstances for the excluded hairstyle, for the only accounting her month for the belly dancing.
What's the factor of the fact? What's the factor of the fact?
What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one for the creates the puzzle.
What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one for the creates the puzzle. For the one who solves it, cures for the sickness, one for the discovering, for the cause, for the sickness, learns for the teachers, learns how to learn for the who teaches. Learning class to teach one who makes the money for the be the rich and needs the money for the richer, wealthy, for the healthiest. Exercise that body for the exercise in the mind for the controls of the body. One who believes the question.
What's the factor of the factories? What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one for the creates the puzzle. For the one who solves it, cures for the sickness, one for the discovering, for the cause, for the sickness, learns for the teachers, learns how to learn for the who teaches. Learning class to teach one who makes the money for the be the rich and needs the money for the richer. What's the factor of the
What's the factor of the
What's the factor of What's the factor of the factories?
What's the factor of the factories? That for the equations, the one who creates the puzzle. For the one who solves it, cures for the sickness, one for the discovering, for the cause, for the sickness, learns for the teachers, learns how to learn for the who teaches. Learning class to teach one who makes the money for the be the rich and needs the money for the richer, wealthy, for the healthiest. Exercise that body for the exercise in the mind for the controls of the body. One who believes the question. What believes it, who are the vows, why the vows before they why, instead for the questioning of the answer to why the vows and sometimes and why the other ways and around. Always why these letters receive the capital punishment for the what is the meant to be. Punish no pun intended. Retention to mention what it's meant did. What is that for the history, repeating for the future? Because we are living now due to the past, and if we didn't already get past it, if we are the future from now, we speak for the dust, the sound for the one who fast into the know how I for the anybody if they can't hear me for the if it wasn't anybody near me to reflect the ways to be to receive the goodbye for the good day. God gave you for the why begotten this word for the gave that for the technically for the it was technical enough for the wasn't that play for the missing mistake to give that for the be pride reciprocity in the town for the chasing. Well, that's the Jason what the word for me for this to be the when I'm done for the sovereign for the Adam and the garden for the Yahweh for the anyway for their so the way that they enjoying for this currently today. We had the day before the one according to the sequentially number for the least to be the good count for the feeling for the anything for the noun describing the scribble. Describe read it like a color for the retina. Side rather the eyes could be used for the show to the place to do wonder for the why actually more ironic statement for the kids that didn't want to join me for the some wordplay for the kids that didn't want to find the lead. Yesterday's nights and lights this shut off on the rise so that you fired the people. Dilate rather for the end time for it to become tardy. Insubordinate for the dope board to eat to what is embroidered it. Bordered that for the obese. It ate the plate for the Play-Doh for the soccer tea for the sausage for the sip the tea for the undermined of dying to go back for this would be the flying for the articulate for the rules one at a time for the state of mind for this would be the play as that for the orchestrator for the orchestrategic. Feeling for the frequency that coordinated for the artificial intelligence ignorant delays related so much I got fired for the even the start of the job and never used the clock for the ticking me off for the job site for the handing me a quarter until the next payday. To wedge into the hourly wage. An age and that for the phase of this to be the haze of the Sunday for the enlightening and enter that for the positive energy. Recirculator for the calculator for the arrival hour to the ETA estimator for the stimulant. Stimulate the patterns and dazzles, satyrs, rings and circumference for the circumstances and date engage the merit, the divorce to the force, the statistics, the behaviors of honey for the tree for the bees and wood with the for polygamy. Pollination for the founded democracy for the demo for the crazy ignorance for the persuaded for the immediate opposed that the leather and rather swayed it out for the grounds and stood out but didn't find the understanding for the what didn't stood next stupid for the stud of the bud light for the owner the brand the bond the butter red for the glass. Fleet before every sip of the drink, the suds and this is that. Mustache to that drink, the pain for the this until the drunk for the pace before for the hungover like crescent, ever pass over for the free will, for the freeway or overpass and pass out for the do the circulation, the circumstances, you upright for the uplift and the shoulder to lean. Loan that lead for the ledge of the legitimize. Legitimate for the allegations and the Levi for the boy. Have the buoyancy for that for Nazi paparazzi, the picture that for the figments and imagination, and I imagine the capture when I take that for the giving a picture where for some to distracted for the only to lose focus today and resolution will blur out what they want to say for all the perceptions and accept that for the exemption for the person to be accept that for the knife and the right to leave you for the left for the middleman for the commonality for the commencement for the comment and that for the commentary. Needs to die, cemented. Cremates that for the cemetery for all the semen for the carry their eggs and nights and Easter for the Easter Sunday for the cream and there was a mate for the day for the cremated for the way all the way down for the night for the secret the hotels and that secret anyway for the anybody finally willing to hear it if it be heard. Word that for the word for the letterbox for the type of desired destination for the designated ears it appears. What's the factor of the factories?